Hi, and welcome to the Sassy Mares podcast, where we dive into the most controversial topics in the equestrian world.
We give our unfiltered opinions and say the things that others won't.
With 4 hosts from different backgrounds, we bring a mix of perspectives, experiences, and even a few debates.
So saddle up, it's going to be a fun one.
This episode is sponsored by Ellie Johnston Photography. Are you getting ready for your next big equine event? Whether it's your last show with your hard horse or the first competition with a new youngster, Ellie Johnston Photography is here to help you capture every magical moment. Ellie has a true passion for equine photography and covers all types of events, from local shows to large competitions. She loves watching every combination thrive and works hard to get the perfect shot, all at an affordable price. Ellie and her team know how important those memories are and are dedicated to preserving them for you. So whether you're looking for the perfect action shot or a heartfelt moment, Ellie has you covered. To book Ellie or her team for your next event, simply reach out on Facebook at Ellie Johnston Photography or find her on Instagram at EllieJohnston_photography. Let Ellie capture your special moments and create memories that will last a lifetime.
Hi guys, and welcome to the Sassy Mares podcast. I'm Alex.
I'm Robin. I'm Amy.
And today we're going to be talking about turnout in the UK and Ireland. So
Turnout is a seriously... Well, I think I stand by the 3 Fs. Friends, forage, and freedom. Like, okay. I think horses should have access to all 3 of those things. Now, I understand, well, I can only really talk for where I live, but that there isn't a lot of turnout here. I think turnout, for how grassy Ireland is, the turnout is so bad for horses.
It's hard to find.
I'm not saying your horse needs to be out 24/7. Ideally, like in an ideal world, they probably all would be. But as long as they have access in the point of their day, having access to their friends, so they can groom over the fence, or if they're in together, they're together. They have access to freedom, so it's like freedom to go for a drink when they want, freedom to go for a road, things like that, and forage, so they have food 24/7. They're my big things that I look for in a yard. So I do think more yards need to offer that.
I don't think very many places over here offer like 24/7 turnout.
Not good turnout.
Not any sort of good turnout. Like, I've been on yards where it's grass, but they're out 8 hours a day. They're always in at night. See, or the other way around.
I think 8 hours a day for here is still very good.
Oh yeah,
especially in winter.
Absolutely, but at the same time, you would take any form of turnout that you can get here, whether it's like a sand paddock or a field or whatever, as long as the horse hasn't stood in all day.
Yeah, see, I'm not partial to, like, I have never really turned her out in winter on a field. She's always been on a hard stand or sand, which I don't really mind, because I think that's just what I'm used to with her now.
Yeah.
But she was, when I first got her, where we were was wetter, and I always ran into the fear of mud fever.
Yeah.
Because she was like mid-leg deep mud. And that, I think that's why I don't mind her being out in a hard stand now. But you probably have a good point to say with field turnout.
Yeah, so I brought Elsie. She was out 24/7 on a hard stand and had a bale, and that's why she was on a big herd. I don't know how many horses, like 15 horses or more, and then like 5 donkeys. And now I have her, and she's in, I can't remember how many hours, I think it's like 18 hours. She's out 4.5, so whatever 24 minus 4.5 is 19. So she's in a lot, and I would rather her be out more. If I could get her out earlier and bring her in later, I 100% would. But
it's just not offered.
It's not. And at that yard in the summer, I get 24/7 on grass, and I just really value that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's difficult because...
That seems to be pretty common here, though. That it's like winter, the turnout is so limited, but in summer, you get like 2-3 months out in a field.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to be like, the whole year isn't catered for, it's just like the summer. Which I understand is because it's drier, like your land isn't wrecked then. And we're not landowners, so it's like we can't talk on that side of it.
Yeah, well that's the thing. Like, literally one time it was raining and the yard owner says to me, like, what would you do? Would you be putting them out? And I goes, like, I don't have your fields in my best interest. I want the horse out.
Yeah, you're interested in the turnout, not the field.
I want the horse to go and stretch your legs and have a wee bit of grass. Like, that's what I'm interested in. So I would be selfish in that way if they're being kept in because there's a bad day of rain, the horses are kept in. I'm not thinking of the fields. I'm just thinking, like, the horse is in.
Yeah.
And that annoys me.
Yeah, well, I just at my yard now just a month. And we had 2 bad stormy days, and they were kept in for those 2 days. which I can kind of understand. I would have wanted her out, but I understand that the yard owner and potentially the other horses wouldn't have been settled. So like, I get it, and she wasn't distressed in. I don't know if she was out, would she just stood miserable? Like, I think that's always something to look at, because when she was at the other yard, like, she was out 24/7, but when the weather was harsh, she was miserable. Like, she was standing cramped under, even if she had a shelter and she still had hay, she was standing cramped under, miserable and just tense.
Yeah.
Whereas we had bad weather there, she was in and she wasn't. Like, she was munching, she was walking about, you know, I took her out and she was hand walked and she was lunged just so she was moving.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's like, I want her out as much as possible, but sometimes you're kind of at the mercy of the yard owner. I think we are lucky that we have hard stands and sand, so it's like we never have that bogged down that you might, like, the grass can't take any more water to it, so they can't go out.
Well, that's a big problem that we have at our yard. So there was never a problem at Elsie's old yard. She could go out. She was just out. They had a barn. If there's bad weather, the horse's choice to go into the barn.
That would be my ideal.
Me too. But in the yard that I'm at now, it's not her choice. She's put out and she's brought in. And if the grass is wet, she just isn't put out.
Yeah.
But
I would love that. I would love to have, like, my dream would always be building a track and then like an open barn where it's like it's bedded and they have the choice to come in.
Yeah.
And if they don't want to come in, they can go like shelter out between like hedges or like trees or things like that, or they have the choice to come in. I think it'd be so interesting, because I hear a lot of people say that when their horses have choice, the rain doesn't really bother them. They seem to come in to shelters for shade in summer.
Well, this is what I've heard as well, but she was always found in the barn whenever it was bad weather.
So
I
cute.
always went and found her in the barn.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel better when she has to be
Yes,
kept in,
you don't
because I'm
feel as
like,
guilty.
I know you don't really like the rain.
Yeah, like
and
she
also runs around in the field in the rain, like to be brought in.
Yeah.
If it starts
But
raining.
do you think that's because that's the rule? She learns that rain means in, so then she's like, bring me in.
Possibly.
Yeah,
Either that, or she's just like a wee princess. I don't know. Get me in now. We used to kick the gate when it started raining. Get me in now.
Look at the stands there and accepts the rain.
His
Like,
coat's so thick.
he's out naked. His
Yeah.
skin has not felt a drop of water in like 3 years. Like, he just stands there and takes it. But like, they haven't been kept in because of the rain.
No, they go out when it rains.
They
It
go
was
out-
just that storm.
Yeah, they go out
It's
when it
wind
rains.
and stuff.
But
Yeah.
it's not only that, it's because the storm took the roof of our feed shed half off.
Yeah.
And then I think we're worried that when it gets really windy, it
It's
might
going to
actually
because
come
it
off.
hasn't been fixed yet.
And even if it didn't, it would still be rattling, and that would scare them.
It's
Yeah.
actually surprisingly does not bother them.
No.
Loki's in that front paddock
Doesn't
where the
bother
feed shed is, and he just it rattles all day, and he's like,
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
So I think that was another reason why they were in, and they were really harsh days. But when it teetered off, like, I put Pepsi out and it was fine. It was just those 2 harsh days that they were kept in. Which,
But that part doesn't really bother me. Like, even
No.
when I was on a yard where they were on field turnout,
Mhm.
like, there was a couple days it was really icy and they couldn't go out. Like, I wouldn't want to lead a horse across the
Yeah.
yard in the ice. You know, like, that's not
See,
fair on the
I
yard
think
owner.
when she's kept in, I feel guilt. Like, I feel the emotion. I don't know, obviously she doesn't, but I feel guilty because it's like, she doesn't know why she's not out.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell her, hey, look, girl, it's windy today. Like,
Yeah,
I've been
no,
told you
exactly.
can't go out. Like, I think it's trying to take that emotion out of it to be like, look, she just wants something to eat.
Yeah.
Like, if she's happy in eating.
Yeah.
But
Why am I stressed?
I felt guilt when I had Hicks.
Yes, because of the weather.
There was no stable.
Yeah.
He did not have a stable. He was out 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
And there would be days when I wake up and it was like the most awful weather
Yeah.
ever, and I was like, oh, my poor son.
Yeah.
Like, I had nowhere to put him. Like,
Yeah.
he was in a field, he lived
That
in
was
a
him.
field, and that
See,
was him.
when she was out 24/7 at my first yard, when we had really, really stormy days, like there was one day it was like 10:30 at night, and I mean it was raining sideways, like it was smacking off the roof, like it was so loud even in the house, and I was like, I have to pop and check on her, like I'm not going to sleep, and I like went out, and Aaron came with me, and I mean, oh my god, you couldn't even see if the rain was that bad, and she was just standing there miserable, and I was like, I don't have that worry anymore now. It's like, I feel guilty because she's not out because of the weather, like she should be out regardless, but like it's nice, it's almost nice knowing that like I don't have that stress, like if the weather's bad, I can sleep because I know she's in and I know she's safe, whereas when she was out it was like,
Yeah, you're worried.
oh my god, is something going to blow into is something going to blow into her field? Is her
Yeah.
fence going to go down? Is she going to freak out and run about here and slip and break a leg? And it's like, I'm not going to know
Yeah.
until the morning.
Yeah.
Whereas you don't have that worry now, but I think it's more me me having to learn that.
Yeah.
You know, because that's not what I'm used to. She lived out there for a couple of years, 4 or 5 years.
But she's adopted well.
She has, yeah. She's not that bothered actually about coming in. She seems to like enjoy it, but a part of me is like, does she enjoy it because she knows she comes in like for food? But like she's always got food when she's out. I'm not saying she's starved when she's out, but it's like, is she coming in and she knows she's going to get like a hard feed? And is that why she's excited to come in?
Yeah, I think that's why Elsie gets excited to come in.
But
Because as soon as she comes in, she does this with her head. I think to get her head colour off and then goes and eats her food.
Ours don't get hard feed like that. Ours aren't all fed when they come in. The last person up feeds them. So she's not coming in for a hard feed, but I wonder, does she come in knowing that that's coming? Knowing that like her net's being
I don't know if
refilled?
they
like,
have memory that long.
Yeah, that's something I don't know. Like I need to look into that.
It surprises me how well he's adjusted to it as well.
Yeah,
because he's
he
gone
lived
in living out constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't know how he's going to cope. But like, he stands in quiet as a mouse. Like,
Yeah,
He's very good.
He plays football, but
I think they're more adoptable than we give them credit for, and I also think they don't mind being in within moderation though. But that's when you get into the thing of people not turning out at all.
Yes.
Like that I have a problem with. So we're talking about there's storms that have to be kept in. If it's really wet in their fields to be kept in, right, that's okay. See not being turned out.
Injury. Yeah.
Yeah, injury. There's multiple reasons why they would need to be in, but if they just never have the choice, they don't go out, say all of winter. I think that is.
no, but it's animal abuse.
it's worse if you have a choice and
you
your
keep them
choice
in.
is in
Keep them
all
in.
the time.
Yep.
Like I don't care if you have a £30,000 horse that you think is too precious to be turned out.
No, it should still be getting
Turn
out.
that horse out.
Yeah.
I
It is
agree.
not fair for them to be kept in 24/7.
No.
Yeah, for your benefit.
Yeah.
For your benefit. Are you scared of mud?
Yeah.
I'm blind to my horse.
Yeah.
Like,
You
insure
scared
it.
to brush his wee legs off, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so unfair to keep any, like, I don't care if it's a competition animal.
No, well, sure,
Turn it on.
mine competes. Like, I know she's not 30 grand's worth, but
I know, but even still.
I would rather she was out for her own headspace. Like,
Yeah.
that horse does everything for me. She's never said no, ever. Any discipline I've ever done, she's done it. She's a very, very good girl. The least thing I can do for that animal is to let her go out and get dirty.
Let her be a horse.
Let her be a horse.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
put her out with no rug on to then, just straight down.
She was
for
like,
a
hell
run.
yeah. So what is your minimum, like, of turnout? Like, what do you think a horse should minimally get? Like, would you rather, because I've seen this online, there's a girl that I know and she's more horses than she has stables / fields.
Mhm.
So what she does is, I don't know how I would do it, but she keeps, like, she's 4 horses, we'll say. 2 of them come in for 24 hours and the other 2 go out for 24 hours, and then they rotate. So the ones that were out for 24 then come in for 24, and the ones that were in go out for 24.
That makes no sense to me.
I would do it half and half.
Yeah.
Even if it was like 8 hours versus 16 hours. Like if you're not able to get up at like say 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Like I understand it's dark.
Yeah.
There's no issue when you're to turn out. But like if you're putting horses out at 7, come back up at 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
swap them over.
Yeah.
See, I agree. I'd
I
rather
would
do
do
it
that
a
half
day
and half,
versus
yeah.
night than a whole day in and a whole day out. Because at
Yeah.
the same time, does the horse know?
Yeah, that would be confusing, would it?
Yeah.
And then they're standing in, and then no, I don't like that.
I'd
You
rather
would do the half and half days,
Yeah,
or
I
as
definitely-
much as you can.
as
half and
much
half.
as you can, yeah. Or like alternate them
Mhm.
if there's ones that are getting out more, then
Yeah, night and day.
once like every other week swap them around so that the other ones are going
Yeah.
out and the other ones are in it during
Yeah.
the day.
You were bringing up a good point there about yards not offering turnout at all
Mhm.
in winter.
I think that is absolutely unacceptable. Actually, literally wild to me.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I know we don't get a lot, but we get something, and our auditor does make a point, even if it's just on a really wet day, she like let them out for an hour just to stretch their legs and get a wee bit of grass.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that because
There's some yards that you don't get.
yeah,
I wouldn't move to a yard. If I went to see a yard and they were like, oh yeah, we have no turnout between like October and March, I'd be like, no,
No.
absolutely
And there's
not.
so
Too
many.
long.
But there's so many.
It's very
so
small.
bad.
Or
Can't do
it's
them.
a turnout pen when you're mucking out, you throw your horse into if it's free.
Yeah, and it's like there's no grass in it, there's nobody else in it, and it's just a
You
wee
can't
square.
put hay out in it.
I've
Yeah.
just come off a yard like that.
Yeah.
I had one on
Mhm.
loan and there was no turnout over winter, none at all. And like the turnout pens are like literally not even the size of this room.
Yeah, I do think that is a bit cruel.
Horses are not designed to be in a little box all day, every day,
No,
for
I
months
know.
on end.
But
It blows
then
their head as well.
I was trying to bring that horse back into work, and it had been in the stable for months and months and months.
Yeah.
And anytime I got it out, it just exploded.
That's what
fresh as hell.
I was going to say. There's someone in my life that we were talking about this before, and her horse was in majority of winter. Like, I mean, the same thing when he really got out, if it was road or was getting mucked out. And she was like, oh, it gets so spooky in the winter. And I was like, I actually kind of thought about it, and I was like, probably it's just pent up energy. But if your horse is in and it's not getting like wind noise, it's not getting rained on,
Yeah.
you know, it's not being out in the environment, does that then, when they go out into that environment, when you go to ride and then they can feel the wind and the rain on their back, does that make a horse spooky?
Yeah, they're like, what the hell's
I
that?
think it would.
Yeah.
Like if Loki was sitting all the time and I took him out and he heard that roof banging, they'd be
Yeah,
like,
is that
Yeah.
scary because they're not then getting multiple environments?
Yep.
yeah,
Because of
absolutely.
the lack of turnout. I do think it is ridiculous that there is some yards here that have so many horses and don't offer the turnout for the horses. I understand it from business perspective, because like the more
Yeah.
horses, the more money. But I don't think you should be opening a yard if you can't fit the amount of horses that you've got in for turnout.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Like, I'm not a yard owner, don't own land, but I don't understand how someone can sleep at night. But then a lot of the yard owners that I'm thinking of about this topic are older. Was that just the norm when they were our age?
Yeah,
Like,
generational thing.
has time moved on?
Yeah.
Are we more aware?
Probably.
Like,
Yeah, I do feel like as like the younger the generation, the more they care about their horse.
That's not always the case, because I see kids on TikTok who are like, my pony got out for an hour today.
But it's not them, or is that their old ass mum?
their mom or the yard owner, like,
Yeah.
telling them that's the right thing to do.
Like it's people around our age, like early 20s. Well, we're not early 20s anymore.
Crisis.
I forgot we were old. People in their 20s. I can't even say it to 20.
We're clinging on to those last years.
People in their 20s, like in general, are more I think more into their turnout, more into listening to their horses, more into like if they see something tiny bit slight and like one stride, they'd be like, my horse isn't okay.
Yeah.
Whereas like older generations be like, oh sure, there's nothing wrong, like get on it right away.
Yeah.
Like, I think in general we're more sensitive.
I think it's a majority.
Yeah.
As a majority, yeah, but
It's
there's some people
swiveling.
who are
I think
like,
we're
"Oh."
turning that way.
Yeah.
Like, it's still a long way to go, but I think we are learning. And I've seen a lot of talk on Facebook the past couple of days actually about turnout and how important it actually is.
Yeah.
Because the cost of living is getting more expensive, how that's impacting, like, yards prices are going up. So people are leaving yards, they're trying to find places that are slightly cheaper but then have worse turnout.
Yeah.
I've seen that being posted, which was an interesting perspective on
And
it
that's
too.
a hard decision that you have to make. Like, cheaper so I can live my life better and not be in poverty, but my horse isn't getting turned out. Like,
And how do you make that?
That'd be such a difficult decision to make.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's one that should have to be made.
No, I
It's
think
just the
every
way
yard
things
should
are.
offer turnout. And I think it should be, for me personally, between 8 to 10 hours a day.
Yeah.
I don't know how, I don't think I could do 4 hours.
How
I know
many do
you-
yours get?
Ours go out
About 8, half 8?
8:30 and come in sort of at the minute about 5.
5, 6.
See, I think that's good.
Yeah.
And then in the summer,
As
when it's brighter,
as
will
it
they
gets
stay
lighter,
longer?
they'll probably stay out longer.
Yeah.
Like I'm never in any rush to bring Loki in,
No,
albeit
never mind.
someone usually brings him in because I work.
Yeah.
He's usually in before I get there, but I just put him back out.
Yeah, she doesn't care.
He doesn't care unless someone walks past him and he starts screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he doesn't care. He just stands there because I can't muck him out with him in the stable. He's too annoying. He's so irritating.
Yes,
So I just put him back out in like the return out pen, and I don't take his hand out. I just put it back in with him.
Yeah, just danders about.
And he danders about for an extra half an hour while I get everything.
I just bring Pepsi's buddy, whoever she has. I just say I'll bring them in, and the owners are always like, yeah, that's fine. So I just get my jobs done, and then I bring her in, and then I usually work her as well. So she's like being exercised for like half an hour, doing an hour depending on what we're doing. So she's usually not getting put to bed 7ish, half 7, which is, I find out, since she's only really in like 13 hours, like kind of like half and half. That's what I'm trying to do with her at the moment anyway.
Yeah, that's good. They do get
Yeah.
a lot then.
Yeah,
They
they do.
But then I actually do, you were saying about the sand paddocks and stuff, I actually do value the grass.
Yeah, you like her
Like,
being out in grass.
I do, and I don't know.
It's
like,
more natural.
horse in field. Like, you
Yeah.
know,
I
that's all it's
don't
meant
get
to
me
be.
wrong. I would rather have him in a field, probably. I don't know. It's like
But it's would you
Yeah.
rather have them in a field for less time or out
No.
on a paddock for more time.
See, I would do more time.
I would do more
probably.
time in a paddock.
But she's also used to that.
Yeah.
She's like, I viewed a yard there that did have her turn out on grass, and that actually put me off going to the yard because
Right.
I couldn't do massive.
the field was wet.
Big. It was a big herd and like there was no grass in it.
There was split merge and geldings at the yard, and it was deep mud, and I was like, I couldn't do that to her. Like,
Yeah.
I just isn't something, put her out under an already established herd as well.
Yeah.
With lack of resources, I just felt like I was going to end up in a trouble with somebody. And like,
Yeah.
it just wasn't something I was willing to do. She's always been turned out on a hard stand though, so
Yeah, that is
she
her norm.
doesn't really know much difference, and then it
Yeah.
benefits me because then I can get a bit of weight off her.
Yeah.
Try.
Yeah, I also appreciate that currently about a hard standing is that I've brought home a severely overweight horse, and with him he's still getting turnout.
Yep.
But I can control.
Monitor.
Mhm.
I can control what he's eating.
Yeah.
He's not starved. He
Yeah.
does have food all day. But he's a really slow eater.
Well,
So it doesn't really matter. But like I know how much food he's getting every
Yeah,
day
yeah.
instead of being like
Corbin.
instead of Gorbin on like you go to the yards and they put a bale out in the field. That's what he was.
Mm-hmm.
He had a bale out in the field with him. That's why he's massive.
Yeah.
he just kept going.
He just kept eating. And like I couldn't do that to him again.
No.
Yeah.
He's so much happier in the last month than he
Yeah.
was whenever he came home.
See,
Yeah.
my ideal would be a track system, but like they don't really exist here. I think
Yeah,
there's
not
only, there's
really
only a
a thing
few
here.
I think I've seen here.
Yeah.
But that would be my ideal for her. Would be like, I actually wouldn't mind if she wasn't on grass. I'd be alright with grass free because of the type she is and like how prone she's been overweight. I think it would take that risk of laminitis away from me. But I think if you could get dry enough fields or have enough land to rotate your fields,
Yeah.
that would be a good way to do grass turnout and try and limit like footfall at gates and stuff,
Yeah.
because I know that's where they
Well,
get
that's where the
boggy.
problem is. Yeah.
See, that's how the last yard I was on was. It was there was enough fields that they could rotate them.
Well, that's what we do.
Keep
as well.
fields
Yeah.
good for summer.
Yeah.
I
But
think
then
that's the
again,
best way.
all of their fields were hills as well.
Yeah,
So
We also have that though. We're quite hilly.
You are quite hilly.
yeah, he's pretty
And
good.
she's on a hill. Her field is usually one of the driest ones. It's only at the gate would be a
Yeah.
bit mucky.
Yeah, I think
But I
it's just
prefer
now.
that.
Yeah.
Like Hicks's field was also like just
Yours
a big
was
giant
yours
hill.
was like, yeah.
His was a big slope, but like his field was never ever tore up.
No, he was very good in his field.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just have free range.
No,
Free range.
he was very good, but I just think we just lack decent turnout here,
Yeah.
like all around. But I think I would rather, for me personally, for my own head. Obviously, I know all this is very dependent on the horse as well.
Mhm.
But I think I would rather Pepsi was out all year than what you used to,
Yeah.
which is like 3 months fully out, potentially winter not much.
Mhm.
I think I'd rather do it the other
I
way.
think I'd rather have.
Do
it
yours
the
come
other way.
in summer still? Come in at night?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think they get to stay out like longer,
Later,
so
yeah.
they'd be out. I think it's like 8 or 9. And then she
Yeah.
comes up and brings them in for us.
But
And they're on
I
grass.
don't mind him coming at night.
See, for me, like summer's like a wee break.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like I don't have to muck out. and all
yeah.
that
See,
kind
I've
of stuff.
always, even when she was at 24/7, I was having to muck out anyway.
Oh, I could pick and
Poo
stuff.
picking in
Yeah.
the field, yeah. So it's like I'll probably still have to do it this year, like. But I don't know. It's going my first year in a long time having her in all year, like overnight.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Maybe my opinion will change in a couple of months.
Yeah.
I'll do a follow video. And everything's changed. But it's hard here. Like, I think just because we are so wet too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I do think yards should have hard stands of some sort. I think that's probably one thing your yard is lacking. It would be so cool if it had it.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a really, really great yard. It's like the one thing for me
Yeah.
that I
Probably.
would wish your yard had, but doesn't affect me like so.
Yeah. I wish your yard had that.
Do you
for
know what I mean though?
I wish your yard
It is really, really handy though, like to have somewhere just to put them.
Yeah.
Like,
Wet
it
doesn't
See,
really
we
matter.
have a designated field for that. Like our hard stand is like a field that the yard owner does not care about. You can
That's
muck it up to
good
its
then.
eyeballs. It doesn't matter if there's no grass. Like it's just to stretch your legs when only the ponies are allowed in it. It's the tire swing field, the one like in the car park. So if they're in or anything, she can, or mucking out, she can go in there.
That's good though that you still have that sort of like thing that she can still get out for an hour.
Yeah, as long as they're sensible and they're small, I don't care if they're in that field.
That's sizes.
He is small.
His size is small, yeah, because Ellie's like, well, why can't Benny go there? And he's like large and breaks when he looks at the wind. He would die in there. Like, it's really rocky and stuff.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they have to be sensible in the way that they're not
So
going to fall down a hole.
Hurt themselves, yeah.
Whereas, yeah, the big ones would just get stuck in a hole, and the non-sensible ones will die.
Well,
So
I think my general consensus on this is that turnout here is great.
Yep.
We need better turnout. And
Yep.
turn your goddamn horses out is my thing.
yeah,
Like,
Any
keep
turnout is good turnout. Take what you can get.
Yeah.
and keeping them in because you think they're worth too much money, you are selfish.
I
Absolutely.
agree. Like, I understand there's reasons why they don't go out, but mine...
Box rest is different.
Yeah,
Yeah, obviously,
injury is different, like under veterinary advice or, you know, things like that.
But even at that though, some people don't box rest either. They'd rather give
Yeah.
them a wee tiny square of grass.
I would probably be like that.
I would probably be like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Keep
like
an eye.
if they're on box rest for so long and then it's like supervised turnout
Yeah.
and you get to
Yeah.
put them in that wee square. Fair.
Yeah, I'm happy enough.
I
for
know
that.
they're not getting like a big free range thing, but like I'd rather them be on a wee square of grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
than
I think it's
stand
just
in the
good for their
stable.
own head though. It's good for their body, their posture. Like, they should have their head down.
Yeah.
You know, clears all their not lymphatic system, but like I know Pepsi, when she was eating on the bale and she was eating more upright,
Yeah.
she was collecting, I got her scoped, and she was collecting like mucus and stuff in the back of her throat. But from now she's been off the bale
Yeah.
and having her head down more. That's gone.
Oh.
The whole problem's gone. And I was really worried about her coming in a bit more because I was like, oh, the dust, like she's gonna get really like that mucusy stuff's gonna come
Yeah.
back. No, it didn't. It was just having her head in that high position all the time to eat,
Yeah.
and actually was being on fine sand. When it dried out,
Mhm.
it got in her throat. Apparently,
Oh.
that's what the vet told me. That's what the scope said. So
Okay. See, I didn't know that.
interesting.
So we're gonna move on to the experts arena.
Hello everyone, so I'm Ellie, I'm one of the hosts on the podcast and I'm also a registered veterinary nurse. So the guards had to record this episode while I was away working, but I had a lot to say on the matter, so I thought I'd use my nursing qualification and jump in on our experts arena. So I'm a strong believer that turnout is vital for both the physical and mental health of our horses, although the duration and turnout schedule may differ for every animal. So I'll start off by mentioning some of the physical benefits. So firstly, horses that don't get appropriate turnout are at higher risk of gut health issues such as colic and ulcers. There's multiple studies examining risk factors for colic, and these found that stabled horses have a higher incidence of colic than horses that get turned out. So turnout supports digestive health in horses by increasing intestinal motility, and this refers to the movement of food through the GI tract. Free exercise aids the contraction of smooth muscles in the intestinal wall, responsible for transporting food through the gut. And one study found significantly lower intestinal motility in stabled horses rather than those turned out. The smooth muscles of the gut are stimulated less when horses are confined, increasing the risk of impaction colic. Research shows daily access to pasture turnout prevents bone mineral loss in horses as well. Tendons and ligaments also respond to increased exercise, so adequate exercise and rest can gradually increase ligament strength and collagen content of connective tissue. And one study found that horses with more than 12 hours of turnout per day had a significantly lower incidence of soft tissue injury. These results suggest turnout can help maintain a baseline level of fitness, and this allows horses to handle demands and handle what you want them to do better under saddle. So next I just wanted to mention the hoof. So when the hoof meets the ground, pressure compresses the veins and forces blood up the leg. So this sort of acts like a pump during exercise, increases the circulation and promotes healthy hoof growth. Confinement leads to poor hoof circulation, which can contribute to common hoof problems. Regular free exercise during turnout helps the hoof anatomy function properly to maintain mobility. Another issue that I wanted to touch on that I feel like many people don't really talk about is respiratory health. So dust and other airborne particles often accumulate in barns or stables. These particles can irritate your mucous membranes and can lead to chronic inflammatory airway disease. There's also ammonia fuel fumes from manure and urine and your bedding. These can damage the horse's airways, and exposure to these can increase the risk of pneumonia and recurrent airway obstruction. And just before I finish my ramblings, I wanted to mention the importance of turnout for a horse's mental health. Horses are herd animals, and they do need social contact with other horses to feel safe and to meet their behavioural needs. I'm sure you've seen firsthand, you're bound to, horses that are in a herd or turned out with their friends. You'll see one lying down and one sort of standing guard per se, watching over them. If you do happen to observe horses turned out on their own, you might notice this is a lot less frequent. They might just not feel safe enough to do it. They don't feel protected. There's also a few studies linking cribbing, weaving and box walking to how much time horses spend stables. These behaviours are associated with stress and can often indicate a welfare issue. So just to finish off, just sort of summarise, I really do feel that turnout is vital to the health of our animals. However, what suits one horse may not suit another. I know horses have to be box rested. Mine had to be box rested for a month and it was horrendous. Some need to be on restricted turnout. There's a whole host of issues that we do need to take into consideration. But we just need to adapt our turnout to suit each individual animal, because that's what they are. They are individuals and we need to treat them as such.
So my name's Ash. I run the Riverstown Farm Stables. I started this in 2013 when I was living in Germany. When I was going back to Ireland, the original plan of Riverstown Farm Stables was to buy and break ponies and sell them, but that kind of went out the window. And now it's a platform where I advocate a lot of issues that are happening at the minute with equine welfare. I live by a code called the 3 Fs, which is forage, friends, freedom, and freedom being the turnout. I suppose my story starts back from when I was quite young. I got my first pony. Pony always lived out. I've had numbers of horses over the years. All my horses always lived out. Now when I think back, and I've discussed it with my mum, we never actually had any issues. We'd never had issues with colic. We never had issues with behaviour problems. When I first got my Irish sports horse, he was a 4-year-old. He had fierce anxiety, as in he used to rear up at the stables. He used to kick the walls. He used to be very bad. And by the time 2 years later, he had settled being out all the time and living in a herd setting, and it showed what a change. Turnout for me really started to come into thinking, especially when I was living in Germany and the horses didn't actually get turned out. The stables were a full closed door, so the horses couldn't even put their heads out. All the horses ever got ridden, they never got turned out into a field just to relax. We got turned out into a pen, which was wood chip, and they'd only get an hour out there, but it was individual. Where's the friendship? Where's the horse being a horse? It was because they were looked at. This is a €500,000 horse. For me, big benefits of turnout. The main things are your physical exercise, mental health. Everyone goes on about mental health and how exercise and downtime is really helpful for people's mental health. But what about the horse's mental health? Horses naturally are meant to move. They're naturally meant to wander. So they're constantly eating. So you put a horse down in a 12 by 12 box and they're in that for hours, and people are like, oh, my horse doesn't like being outside. How do you know that? Your horse has become so domesticated to being used in a box, so they just accept it. All over Ireland, all over Europe, all over the UK, there's more horses on a yard and not enough grazing. And then people are like, oh, it's too expensive to push horses out. It's, over the winter months, so they ruin the fields. I've asked a question there about box rest in case of injury. Absolutely. If it depends on the injury. For me, it really depends on the injury. There's nothing wrong with limited turnout. Rehabilitation centres around the UK are really starting to put in these paddock gardens, or paddock boxes they're called. It's a huge thing in Germany, where it's like another 14 by 14 foot outside, so it's like a balcony, so the horse can go out, have a look, get fresh air, talk to their neighbour, go back into its stable, and it allows it that little bit of movement without it going stir crazy. I think it's really important that a horse, even on box rest, has turnout. You need to give it that some form, like even hand walking. If you have a horse on box rest, that little turnout, like if that horse can go down for a roll for 5 or 10 minutes outside, it makes a huge difference. Pick a hand grass. It's like being locked in a box, but then again, it varies from the kind of injury that they have. Do you know, the one thing that really is getting on my nerves at the minute is there's a recent report that came out about the RSPCA, and they basically said that horses that aren't getting enough turnout in the UK, and I think it's becoming normalised with the younger generation, that they see it as a normality because it's convenient, especially if you're working. I put a post recently about equine colleges. Like equine colleges, when I was in equine college, it was normal. Equine colleges, horses didn't get turnout. Do you know, the horses got exercise at the weekend. There was no downtime. It's only Harpreet College. This year is the first year Harpreet College. It's actually done turnout. The mindset is starting to change, but it's still very normal, and you see comments. People are saying, oh, my horse doesn't like turnout. How can you say your horse doesn't like turnout? You're not your horse. So, your horse is standing at the gate looking to come in. Your horse is standing at the gate looking to come in because he associates food with his box. If you can't afford to give your horse turnout, if you can't find a place that doesn't do turnout, if you can't find any livery that does turnout in the winter, you shouldn't have a horse. And it sounds so bad. Either that, or go and put your horse on a holiday for the winter months and that he can live outside. There's plenty of people doing holiday livery. A lot of people don't like me here saying that, and they're like, you know, it's going to cut out a lot of people, because we also need to be realistic. If livery yards charge more, then maybe they would do the all year round turnout. I also wanted to add, like, when it comes to benefits of turnout, not only is it there physically and mentally, but it also helps with preventing colic, because the horse is always moving, so the gut is active. Preventing ulcers. Ulcers is becoming one of the biggest issues in the UK and Ireland. Like the behaviours problems, you know, your horse is too feisty, your horse is napping, your horse is weaving, windsucking, crib biting, box walking. All these are issues related to turnout. People need to really think about their horse's welfare and go back to the 3 F's again of friends, forage and freedom.
A big thank you to our experts for this episode. And now we're going to move on to listeners take the reins.
Okay, so we put up a post asking for the listeners' opinions on turnout, because I know it is very varied. Very varied.
Very varied.
From
Very
location to just yard to just
personal opinions.
Yeah, personal opinions. So we're going to insert some of those clips and let's listen to some of your opinions on turnout.
Hi, my name's Kathryn and I'm a 20-year-old medical student. I've been riding horses since I was 4, and over this time I've loaned lots of horses. But in 2019 I was really lucky to finally get my own horse. She's called Molly. She's a 14-year-old Irish sport horse, and we get out and about doing a mix of things like show jumping, eventing. We've even done a bit of dressage in there. Can't say she enjoys it. But over the 6 years of having her, we've kept her in quite a variety of situations. It results now that she's actually living at home, but it hasn't always been this way. And I feel like this has given me quite a good insight of different upkeep situations in the horse world and sort of the effect that they can have on the horses themselves. When we first got Molly, she was kept on a private livery yard, so it was about 10 minutes from my house. So as we'd only had previous loaning experience, we didn't really know the norms to be expected on a private livery yard when it comes to turnout. So the livery yard had small paddocks, which during the summer the horses were allowed out into during the day. So they went out all day, or especially hot weather, then they would be put out overnight, often not both. However, if the weather was bad, then they would be brought in and they would be kept in, as if the ground got wet, the farmer didn't want them in the field. So they would go out around like 9 o'clock in the morning, and they'd usually be in like 4, sometimes 5. So this worked out okay. Molly was every day was so excited to get out to the field. But unfortunately, when winter came, it's when we started to sort of have more issues. Turnout in this yard often stopped early September. And from then, the only option was like, there was wee stoned pens outside, but they were no bigger than the stable, and it was only really suitable for a couple of hours. This is when we discovered how much Molly really hated being stuck in. We quite literally had to pad her stable walls with rubber mats as she kicked, she squealed, she hated other horses looking at her. She hated the fact that she was just in, it was not really a good situation. She also lost significant weight. She sort of refused to eat her haylage. She went really depressed, tired, and often that meant that we had to sort of give her a holiday because it wasn't fair to work a horse that was already dropping weight with no work. So also we would struggle for the fact that she would just stiffen up. Standing in a stable all day was horrendous, and often we would even find that when she wasn't eating, her legs would swell. So every morning before school I went up to the yard and I walked her along the hacking just in hand to try to get swelling out of her legs, just to try and get her out, because I hated the fact that she was stuck in so much. And that then would keep her going till I got up later to ride her or do the same again. So I found this quite scary because I knew that she was dropping weight, and it's really hard to sort of do anything about it when they don't want to eat. So often I was just counting down the days for fields to be open. For that first year, the horses didn't see grass sort of until the end of May. So until the end of May, start of June, until September isn't a very long time for turnout. Due to our ignorance of other options sort of things, we ended up staying on this yard for a couple of years, and only now in retrospect that we've seen other situations, we realise how unhappy it actually made the horse. And because we'd only bought her when we moved on to this yard, I don't think we realised that at the time. So a couple of years later, we were really lucky to get the chance of some grass at our house, and this is when things changed. Third winter at the livery yard, we just got the land and we only had like temporary fencing, but we knew how much Molly wanted to be out. So as I'm really quite lucky to be supported by my parents, we decided to get up really early every day, and we drove her home with the horse box every day, dropped her off, left her in the field, and then dropped her back to the livery yard every night. This was a lot of work for us, but it made her so much happier and showed how much she was missing out on at the livery. This meant that when spring came and the weather dried up, we made a decision to move her home full time. This was a game changer, and she was so happy being living out full time in all weather. As winter came again, we didn't have any shelter sorted, so we made the decision to put Molly back onto livery. But this time my instructor offered to take her at her yard, which was quite a lot further away from us. Here she was treated like a queen. She had a massive foaling box, and they got out to the field every day that the weather wasn't too bad. This kept her really sane and healthy, and it was the first winter that she hadn't dropped weight, so we knew we were on to a winner. As spring came again, we brought Molly back home, and she sort of re-entered her previous routine. As we shorted shelter, we decided to keep Molly at home this winter. Set up at home means that we've got a large paddock that I use for summer grazing, smaller fence paddock used for spring and autumn, and then the rest of the field is rented to a farmer for silage on like a conacre basis. This means that they only have it from March to the end of October each year. This means that during the winter, we decided to keep Molly out every day in the farmer's field, which is much bigger, and then just bring her in at night. This kept her really happy, but often meant that when storms came, she just had to be put out overnight as well, because often they got a bit scared in the stable. So this winter we decided to be a bit more radical and kept Molly out full time in the farmer's field. I was a lot busier with uni, and we just decided to give it a go and see what would happen. She managed really well, and she got into a really fab routine, and the changes the positive routine had on her mental health and physical health was amazing. So being on a livery yard, you don't really appreciate the thought that goes into land management. When land is yours and all you've got for the next year, you're less reluctant to sort of wreck it. We managed this by only using the summer paddock when it's dry in the summer. I'm also a very religious poo picker, and I'm out nearly every day on this paddock, and it is kept pristine. It looks like a lawn. Whereas the autumn spring paddock is allowed to get a bit more use, and we're a bit less fussy about it. It is still poo picked. We would often maintain it by cutting off old dead grass strands to try and keep it a bit fresher. Farmer's field's much bigger, so it isn't really as damaged during the winter because it is bigger. The gateways do become muddy though, and we've ended up replanting those at the end of the season. So the farmer every year runs pH testing on the land, which will just check, obviously, the pH is suitable for grass, which is very useful for us to know as well. We're also really lucky that we live on a steep hill, so the land is very dry in general. However, 2 years ago, the winter was so wet that some days we did have to make a decision to lock Molly into like a stone yard area. This does annoy her, but like sometimes the sacrifice has to be made because you need to be able to look after your own land. So I suppose overall this experience has taught me the importance of turnout for horses. Molly's a different horse now with the current setup, and it brings me so much joy to see her this happy. I could never imagine her going back to living in full time. I understand that this level of turnout is not an option for everyone, and I am really, really lucky with my situation. However, just for everyone to understand the importance of horses getting turnout and just trying your best to do as much of it as you can will make such a difference.
This episode is sponsored by Ellie Johnston Photography. Are you looking to create everlasting memories with your horse? Capture that perfect sale photo or get stunning images to showcase your brand? Ellie Johnston Photography offers a range of affordable photo shoot packages tailored to your needs. From bringing out the best in your horse's personality to ensuring you get the perfect shot, Ellie is committed to delivering high quality, beautiful images that you'll cherish forever. Whether you're after that winning shot for your sales ad or simply want to capture the bond between you and your horse, Ellie's got you covered. But hurry, Ellie has very limited availability. To book your photo shoot, reach out via Facebook at Ellie Johnston Photography or on Instagram at Ellie Johnston_photography. And here's a little bonus. If you mention the Sassy Mares when booking, you can get 10% off your session. So don't wait. Book your session today and make those memories last forever with Ellie Johnston Photography.
Thanks to everybody who put in a little clip. We really appreciate your time and your effort. And thanks for listening. So we've been the Sassy Mares. I've been Amy. You can find me at Amy Copa on TikTok.
I've been Robin. You can find me at robin.hartley on TikTok and rhshowjumping on Instagram.
I've been Alex. You can find me at ab.eq on TikTok and Instagram.
And the Sassy Mares is at the Sassy Mares Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, and search up the Sassy Mares on YouTube and Spotify. But you already know that
because you're already there.
Bye!